The Jerusalem Gift Shop, 10% off everything. Coupon code ILTV.
Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras here with ILTV's morning briefing. Speaking at a United Nations Security Council meeting Wednesday evening, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Dani Danon, accused the Lebanese army of passing on information to terror group HEZBOLLAH and of failing to allow UN peacekeepers to help halt the cross-border tunneling operation. More specifically, Danon said that Lebanese army officials were working for HEZBOLLAH, while UNIFIL was not working to fulfill its mandate in the region. The meeting was called by the United States on behalf of Israel, which sought to condemn Hezbollah's terrorist activities. And at the meeting, United Nations Undersecretary for Peacekeeping Operations Chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix confirmed that the organization had asked Lebanon to assist in tracking the tunnels on the Lebanese side, and that UNIFIL also confirms that 2 terror tunnels did cross the blue line into Israel's territory, violating United Nations Resolution 1701. Now, ahead of the UN Security Council meeting, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also held a press conference and told journalists that Hezbollah is endangering Lebanon with its terror tunnel network, which he called an act of war. He also pointed the finger at Beirut, saying that the Lebanese government and army has failed to contain the threat. Now, while it was unlikely from the start that anything would actually come out of the meeting, Netanyahu's rhetoric and Israel's UN push is seen by some as laying the foundation for an eventual incursion into Lebanon to complete Operation Northern Shield. Additionally, on Wednesday, Netanyahu also said that Hezbollah had shut down plants to develop precision-guided missiles outside of Beirut, and that the terror organization had only, quote, at most a few dozen of these missiles left. Meanwhile, however, Lebanon says it is fully committed to the UN Resolution 1701, which ended the 2006 Second Lebanon-Israel War, and has called on the Lebanese military to, quote, take all necessary measures, end quote, to ensure its implementation in coordination with UNIFIL forces. Lebanon has also pointed the finger at Israel, though, for its alleged violations of the resolution. Finally, in related news, Leon Panetta, who served as United States President Barack Obama's Secretary of Defense and Director of the CIA, said in an interview with Israel's Army Radio that the United States cannot ignore the developments along the Israel-Lebanon border. He said that as defense minister under Obama, the United States understood the threat of Hezbollah, and he said that he hopes the Trump administration is taking this threat seriously too. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel will now study the situation in Syria following the United States' announcement that it will be pulling troops from Syria. United States President Donald Trump, in a surprise announcement yesterday, tweeted a video in which he said that the United States has beaten ISIS, and so it's time for U.S. troops to come back home. Trump's announcement came as a shock to United States allies, including senior Republican officials, all of whom say that the United States' withdrawal could lead to a resurgence of ISIS. The decision was also widely seen in the Pentagon and among United States allies as benefiting both Russia and Iran, which have used their support of the Syrian government to bolster their influence in the region. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a Trump ally, also called the president's decision a huge Obama-like mistake and said it was unwise to put the Kurds, whom are U.S. allies who helped fight against ISIS, at risk. Currently, some 2,000 United States troops are stationed in the Kurdish region in northern Syria. Meanwhile, Russia hailed the announcement and said that the United States' decision to withdraw troops creates prospects for a political settlement to the ongoing crisis in the country. TASS news agency reported the Russian Foreign Ministry as saying this on Wednesday. In a shocking state of affairs due to overcrowding, 29 prisons in the Israeli prison services released early nearly 1,000 inmates on Thursday. But even more concerning about this news is the conditions of the release and the list of criminals now free. Among them, nearly 300 men convicted of sex crimes or domestic abuse. And all this rather than complying with a High Court of Justice ruling from last year to provide more space for prisoners. Rights groups across the country are decrying the move as a massive step backwards, especially considering many of the convicts were involved in violent crimes against minors and women. And the release of these 970 convicts also comes after 25 women and girls in Israel were murdered in domestic and sexual violence just this past year. Speaking to Ynet News, the Israel Women's Network reportedly called the move shocking and outrageous and, quote, a slap in our face, adding that the release of hundreds of men without specialized and comprehensive treatment plans will place many more women in a dangerous situation, and even with concerns for their lives. And in fact, women's protest leaders are still striking every day at 10 a.m. for 25 minutes until the government funds an already approved plan to combat domestic and sexual violence, particularly against women. The Israel National Council for the Child also similarly wrote in a letter to the Israel Prison Services that the decision, quote, may have far-reaching consequences for minors, end quote, especially as no orders for monitoring these offenders after their release has yet been issued. and this despite some of the sexual offenders still being considered dangerous, end quote. It's still unclear at this time how or even if the government plans to keep tabs on these newly freed men. Israel's public buses are plagued by many various problems. Old and defunct systems, distracted drivers who have to deal with long lines at the entrance, and above all, massive and consistent delays. Well, starting Friday, December 21st, a new policy rollout will hope to solve these issues. From now on, whether you live here or you're just visiting, all travel by bus will have to be paid through the prepaid RAV-KAV card. As of now, the rollout will affect the Dan brand buses in the Tel Aviv region, and this comes after the successful rollout of the same policy in Jerusalem and Beersheba earlier this year. Primary reasons for the change include allowing the drivers to focus more solely on driving and not in taking in cash and issuing change and tickets. This process alone distracts drivers into dangerous situations and can hold up the line with an ever-worsening domino effect. Passengers now, then, will be completely responsible for securing payment digitally, with very few exceptions. Only elderly passengers will still be able to purchase paper tickets with cash on the line. Drivers will no longer be able to charge your RAV-KAV on the bus either, though. That leaves riders with a few options. You can still purchase an anonymous RAV-KAV on the bus, charged with a single ride for just under 11 shekels. Then you would have to charge that card for future rides. Other options now available include ordering the card online or buying one at specific locations, and then again charging it periodically either online through the RAV-KAV app or website, and at charging kiosks soon to be located throughout the country. Riders will also have the option of using the Hop-On app to scan barcodes in the buses and paying directly via credit card, which is lucky too, since at least for now, all these services are still in Hebrew only and geared towards Android operating systems. That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.